Happy Thanksgiving, guys. So, I'm shooting this video on Thanksgiving Day, not because I couldn't think of more fun things to be doing right now, but there was some really big news that broke last night. Almost nobody's talking about it, and I'm afraid that by Monday, it's going to be buried. Some fishy stuff has happened since I started shooting this video. Yes, this has to do with impeachment, and if you watch it, you will not be wasting your time. Happy Thanksgiving. All right, let's jump right into it.
If the facts aren't contested and your committee is writing up the report and you don't, at least as of now, have any scheduled witnesses or depositions, do you think President Trump should be impeached?
I want to discuss this with my constituents and my colleagues before I make a final judgment on it.
Okay, maybe some of you guys saw this earlier in the week and were confused by it like I was, but I'm about to shed some light on why he's had this change of heart. How could he all of a sudden say that he's not sure if Trump needs to be impeached? That makes no sense whatsoever after he's been hammering this quid pro quo story. Now it's bribery. How could he change his mind? What could his motivation possibly be? For transparency, I'm letting you know I cut a part of this out to get to the point and make this as concise as possible. But basically, Schiff tries to dance around this, to which the CNN anchor is rightfully shocked since him and his company have been hammering this story for months now. Let's see what the CNN guy's reaction is.
But if that's your view, and you've also said that this week's testimony, quote, goes right to the heart of the issue of bribery, and you've also said that what you've seen is, quote, far more serious than what Nixon did, explain to me how you have not come to the conclusion that the president should be impeached. I mean, it sounds like you think he should be impeached.
Well, I certainly think that the evidence that's been produced.
You think he should be impeached.
Look at the look on his face right there. That's the cat getting caught with his hand in the bird cage. It's the fox in the hen house. He looks like he's about to shit. And here's why.
I want to get right now to a developing story. Just when you thought the deep state couldn't get any deeper, what do you know? We get reports tonight linking members of Adam Schiff's team to that sketchy energy company out of Ukraine, Burisma, the one that paid all that money to Hunter Biden. According to reports in the Washington Examiner as well as Breitbart, two of Adam Schiff's team members worked at something called the Atlantic Council, which is a think tank, which Breitbart says is funded by this Ukrainian company, Burisma. Okay, so think about that. A couple of Schiff team members worked at a think tank that allegedly, reportedly, was funded by Burisma? And it gets worse, because there are also reports now that the alleged whistleblower worked with one of Schiff's team members at the National Security Council. And what do you know? As soon as Schiff's team member went over to Capitol Hill, when he left the NSC, suddenly that report from the whistleblower got filed. This does not look very good.
Okay, so Schiff earlier in the week definitely knew that this story was going to break, and that's why he started to backpedal on all this stuff. Because if this actually goes to the Senate, they're going to call him up to testify, and he's going to have to lose this bullshit story about how he didn't know the whistleblower, and then it's going to evolve into the fact that he was basically complicit in a conspiracy this entire time. I don't use that word lightly, but I mean, do the math. And what you have to start to wrap your mind around is that Adam Schiff is the tip of the iceberg on this. Because if you follow all of these sources that the Washington Examiner cited, that Breitbart has cited, and that Reagan was just citing on Fox Business Channel, there are so many other people that are going to be implicated in this. Ambassador Bill Taylor, for one, is also associated with this think tank that's tied to Burisma. Now, this is footage of John Kerry visiting Ukraine when he was Secretary of State. His stepson, who's one of the Heinz family, had ties to Hunter Biden's business dealings, I believe specifically in Ukraine, or it was some kind of a tie-in where they had to part ways. And I'm not saying that John Kerry's son, who is one of the Heinz family, actually did anything wrong, but when this thing goes to the Senate, they're going to start calling all these people up here to testify and be a part of this shit that don't want any part of it. Okay, so this article that I've put up on the screen for you right now, mostly as a backdrop, is not actually the article that Miss Kennedy is talking about in the Fox Business Report there, because The link that I had to the article has disappeared since I started shooting this video. If you read the article, it shows without a shadow of a doubt that Schiff knew that all of his staffers had connections to this think tank that is funded by this Burisma energy company in Ukraine. He had deep ties to all of this stuff. And this is the real reason why the State Department, why all these diplomats, why Adam Schiff, and you could literally name 100 other people, did not want Trump on the phone with Zelensky. They did not want him snooping around over there. It really had, it had something to do with the Bidens, but the Bidens are just one of the plethora of people who are over there doing stuff that they really shouldn't be doing. The further back you track this whole Ukraine story and our involvement over there in any significant capacity, it all goes back to the 2014 Ukrainian Revolution, which I'm working on a bigger video for that, but it has to be mentioned with respect to this Adam Schiff situation and to the Biden situation. I think that a lot of people in America have become, if not comfortable, conditioned to the idea that we go into Arab countries and facilitate the overthrow of governments all the time. Hell, if not outright invade them and topple the government in broad daylight. It's not a secret that we helped to facilitate the Ukrainian revolution. It's, if someone with my limited resources is able to read up on it in a significant way, it's not as if it's covered up per se, but when you start getting into the details of all that stuff, and if this goes to the Senate and they have to start tracking back where all these relationships between our politicians and our diplomats, where all these relationships came from with these non-government organizations and these think tanks in Ukraine, it is going to get nasty. I'm not accusing anybody of committing a crime. I really don't know jack squat about international law. But these stories about what was going on over there, they involve people like the lady on the screen, Ambassador Victoria Nuland, who worked under Hillary Clinton when she was Secretary of State. They involve the late John McCain. They involve a lot of people. Think about all the people underneath of him, all the people underneath of Victoria Nuland, these people that we can name, and how many of them will get called to testify on a subject matter that the intelligence community, they do not want Main Street America getting into the details of us helping to overthrow a government in a European country, because that hits close to home. Maybe overthrowing countries in the Middle East doesn't hit close to home. If people on Main Street America get exposed to all of this stuff that was going on in Ukraine in 2013, 2014, and become as familiar with it as I am, they are going to have a lot of questions. And that's really what all this stuff comes back to. I'm sorry that I don't have more specific details and video clips to show you right now. I wanted you guys to have a deeper sense of the impact it has for Schiff to be exposed to have ties to Burisma in any way. If this goes to the Senate, it's going to be ugly. My prediction right now is that this is not going to go to the Senate because the powers that be are going to squash it because it's too risky for too many people. It looks like maybe that story has been taken down at this point from the Washington Examiner. I don't know if it got taken down. I don't know if somebody's messing with my computer, but this is a story people need to know about. I have links in the description below that you can share with people. If you don't want to do that, you can share this video. People need to understand what's going on right now. I find it odd that Fox Business Channel at 10 p.m. the Wednesday before Thanksgiving is the only major TV outlet who I've found covering this story. I think people need to know about this. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you in the next one.